Welcome to Zipadee Doo Dah Disney, the podcast where I give you my favorite tips and recommendations to help you make the most of your Disney World vacation. So sit tight, thanks for listening, and let's go on that ride. Welcome to episode 26 of Zipadee Doo Dah Disney. I'm your host, Eric Frenchman, and this episode is titled Planning Your Disney Dining on High Demand Days. That's right, try saying that quickly 3 times. It's a tongue twister. Anyway, that's right, we're going to talk about my recent experiences booking our family vacation at the end of December, which corresponds to the most crowded time of the year. And it's also a follow-up post from my original 3 episodes from way back in early 2019. I think this is going to help all my friends and family, whether you have kids or not, because all these tips that I'm going to give you and also my recent experiences will help you plan your Disney World vacation. So here's how this episode's going to roll. First, we're going to do a recap of all the recent changes to booking your Disney World vacation. Next, we're going to quickly talk about Disney's Genie Plus and the ride reservation systems. And before you go, Eric, this is about Disney dining. Why are we talking about rides? Well, you have to take that all into consideration when you're booking your Disney dining. And then we're going to go over some of my general tips and how I used them recently while booking my Disney dining. And finally, we're going to go through my experience and how I handled planning our Disney dining reservations for the most crowded time of the year. So sit back, thanks for listening, and let's go on that ride. All right. Before we start talking about Disney dining reservations, which if you saw me in person, you know that Disney dining has a big impact on my life. And believe it or not, Disney dining will have a big impact on your enjoyment for your trip. I need to recap for you some of the bigger changes that have been made to Disney World in the past year, or actually since COVID, that will impact how you plan your Disney dining. So first, I don't know if you know this, but it's been around for a while. You need to reserve where the first park you're going to visit per day. And you need to do that prior to your arrival. That means, well, you don't have to do it prior to your arrival. Obviously, you have to do it like that day if you're showing up that day, but then you're not really listening to me because you already know what you're doing and you're probably an expert. Anyway, but generally, if you're going on vacation, you need to book it prior to your arrival. That means that, yes, you already had to have purchased a park pass for your day. And you need to also keep in mind that you need to use a crystal ball. You need to figure out where do I think I'm going to be on day 1 of my vacation? Which parks am I going to visit? So for example, for the folks that have lots of little kids, you're probably going to spend a lot of time at the Magic Kingdom, maybe 1 or 2 days at the Animal Kingdom, and maybe 1 or 2 days at Hollywood Studios, and maybe if you're lucky, you squeeze in an Epcot trip where you're not totally boring all your little kids, and you're having fun drinking around the world. Anyway, put that aside. So you need to book your park reservation prior to your arrival, and you need to use a crystal ball. Next, there's a little added benefit if you're a Disney resort guest or if you're staying at one of the other Disney hotels that they're making, not Disney hotels, Orlando hotels in the Disney area, where they give them a benefit that you can show up 30 minutes prior to general park opening. And you're saying to yourself, Eric, why do I need to know that if I'm going to do Disney? Well, you need to know that because you might need to know where you're planning on breakfast. If you got little kids, it's not so easy to sit there and go, hey, come on, we're ditching breakfast. We're going to grab a coffee at Starbucks and maybe a muffin, and we're going on some rides. So you need to know if when the parks are opening, where it's going to be crowded or not crowded, and you need to know what time you need to get there. So keep that in mind. If you're staying at a Disney hotel, you get early access 30 minutes before the general park opening. And if you're staying at one of the other Disney Disney World hotels in the area that they're giving this benefit to. You need to check the website. You need to figure out if you're staying at one of those hotels. Next, another benefit if you're staying at a deluxe Disney resort. And the deluxe Disney resorts are like the Contemporary, the Animal Kingdom, the Polynesian. Again, look this up on their website. But there are going to be parks during your week that are staying open later. They're extended hours. Now, I checked for my vacation when we're going. There's only one day right now when a park is staying open late. That's December 29th. It's the Magic Kingdom. It's going to be open from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. for Disney Deluxe Hotel guests. And guess what? I didn't book the Magic Kingdom for that day. So, in order to take advantage of that, you're going to have to park hop. In my case, you'd have to park hop. If you use your crystal ball, looked ahead, and saw 2 months ago that the Magic Kingdom is going to be open late that day, maybe you plan on being at the Magic Kingdom that day and staying later, and maybe you're booking a dining reservation for dinner either in the Magic Kingdom or at one of the nearby hotels. Speaking of park hopping, that's an added cost. It always has been. Again, unless you have the annual pass. But again, if you have the annual pass, why you're listening to me, because you already know what you're doing. Anyway, for park hopping, what that means is that you get to go to another park that you didn't make a park reservation at after 2 o'clock every day, subject to availability into the park you're going to go hopping to. So let's go back to my example from December 29th. That day we're at the Hollywood Studios. That's the day I reserved our park at Hollywood Studios. Sorry, I stumbled a little bit. So let me recap. December 29th, we're at Hollywood Studios. That's the day that I reserved a Hollywood Studios day. Magic Kingdom is open late from 9 to 11. So in order to take advantage of the extended hours, since we're staying at Bay Lake Towers as usual, we're going to have to park hop. That's an added cost on top of the people that are basically getting it just for vacation. I'm the only one with the only annual pass. And then we need to have the ability to park hop to the Magic Kingdom on that day, subject to availability. What does that all mean for you? Couple things. One, if you have little kids, you're probably not going to want to do the park hopper. Why? You're going to probably spend most of your day in the park, right? Maybe you're eating breakfast and lunch. Kids like to get up early. And maybe then you're going back to the pool. So now you're at the pool at the hotel having fun. You're like, what are we going to do for dinner? I don't know if it's worth it. You know, you could decide for yourselves. Maybe if you have older kids, you could do this, that you're going to want to park hop into another park and get a dining reservation. But that's where the problem is. You can't rely on the fact that you're going to park hop into another park that was different from the park you reserved earlier in the day. You can't guarantee that. So even if you have a dining reservation, say, again, back to my example, at the Magic Kingdom, you might not be able to get back in. So you just wasted your dining reservation. So I think, especially for the most crowded times of the year, relying on a park hop to go do something at night, especially for dining, is not the best idea. I didn't do that at all. Every single one of my reservations for dinner has nothing to do with park hopping. And guess what? On this vacation, as of right now, we're not paying for park hopping for all the people that don't have annual passes. Finally, keep in mind that Disney is still under some COVID restrictions. That means reduced capacity and still a lot of attractions and events, special attractions like Caring for Giants, which was this cool thing with elephants, and maybe fairy tale fireworks. You got to check to see what other special attractions are open, but more importantly, some of the restaurants are still not open, like my favorite, Flying Fish, still not open post-COVID. Also, keep in mind that a lot of the restaurants have reduced capacity for seating, which makes getting dining reservations a lot more difficult than they've ever been before. It's just not about planning and looking ahead. You might not be able to get the dining reservation you're looking for, so you need some flexibility. So keep that in mind. And the final part about dining post-COVID is Disney's trying to push everybody over to mobile ordering for quick service meals. Okay, Gone are the days when you're going to be waiting in line. They want you to use the app, and they're putting more and more technology. We'll talk about that in a second. They're putting more and more technology into the mobile phone app. They're pushing all these people to use mobile ordering. Back in the day, when nobody knew about mobile ordering, it was great. I mean, I remember being at the Animal Kingdom and making a quick service pickup on my mobile phone and being the only guy walking in there getting it. When everybody else is standing in line, I'm getting my meal. But now, when we went back last time, it's super crowded, especially the most crowded time of the year, which is going to be the week between Christmas and New Year's. That week, there's tons of people using mobile ordering, which means you need to plan ahead, and you also need to figure out how you're going to sit down. It's hard. People are looking for seats. Anyway, why am I talking about mobile ordering for quick service? Because you might be better off making another lunch dining reservation just to take the pressure off of yourself and the hustle and bustle of getting a quick service meal. I know they're cheaper, and I know some of them taste great. Don't get me wrong. I love quick service. But when it's super crowded and they're backed up with your orders because there's thousands of people making lunch orders, and then they're all wrestling and trying to find seats, it's a pain. So keep that in mind. You might want to make, and I did that on this trip, you might want to make more sit-down lunch reservations in the parks than you ever have before. Next up, let's talk about the ride reservation system. It's now called Genie Plus, and there's an additional fee that you could pay called for individual Lightning Lane reservations. And you're like, dude, this is supposed to be an episode about Disney dining. Why we talk about ride reservations? Well, I'm going to tell you at the end why I'm going to tell you that. Surprise. Anyway, you can listen to episode 25 to get more information about Genie Plus, which is the ride reservation system, and the individual Lightning Lane purchases. But this all comes into factoring into your crystal ball. This is part of your crystal ball. It's just not where I'm reserving parks from the day of my visit. It's also about what the ride reservation system is going to look like. How am I going to game that out? So when I'm planning my Disney dining, I'm not messing anything up. So quickly, let's talk about Genie Plus and the individual Lightning Lanes. And you'll see why in a second, why it's important. Genie Plus is a pay per day per person ride reservation system. It's $15 per day per person. So in our case, that's $75 per day. What do you get with that $70 per day? Well, guess what? At 7 a.m., you get to reserve one ride. And that means you get to go in the old Fast Pass lanes, which are now called Lightning Lanes. Exciting, right? Guess what? They took away the free thing, as I said earlier. Now you got to pay for it. You get to make one ride reservation for the Lightning Lane at a time. The Disney app will tell you when you can make your second one. Sounds great. It's okay, because it allows people that didn't plan everything in advance to sort of show up at the park or at 7 a.m., figure out what they want to go on, and make their ride reservations. So maybe you're thinking, it's not so bad, $75. Wait, there's still more. The problem is some of the most popular rides can't be reserved with Genie Plus. So your option is to pay an additional fee to access the Lightning Lane for these rides. So for example, say you're in the Magic Kingdom and you want to go on Space Mountain. Or if you got little kids, you want to go on the Seven Dwarfs Mine. You don't get to reserve that through the Genie Plus system. You got to reserve it through the individual Lightning Lanes. And you're going to pay extra per person to skip that line. So for those two rides, Space Mountain and Seven Dwarfs Mine, if you don't want to wait online, you gotta pay extra. You get to make two of those per day, up to two of those per day, one at a time. So let's just say you just dropped, like me, you just dropped $75. Let's say on average it costs to reserve Space Mountain, or maybe you want to go on the new Remy Ratatouille ride, or maybe you want to go on Frozen Ever After if you have little kids, or you want to go on Rise of the Resistance and you don't want to wait on those long lines. Let's say, because the costs change per day based on demand. So let's say it's $10. So for the same people that I'm going on my trip with, I've already paid $75 for the Genie Plus. Now I want to go on these rides. It's another $50 to skip the line. I could do that twice. Well, guess what? You just dropped $175, and all you've been doing is doing rides. It's a lot of money. And guess what? That's why you need to know, because that's a lot of cash to drop per day for your Disney vacation. You don't want to blow it. The other part is it factors into your crystal ball about where you're going to be that day when you're making your dining reservations. You already know you're going to be at that park probably around breakfast and lunchtime, but where are you going to be at dinner? Did you get on Rise of the Resistance, or you missed it in the morning? And now you're able to book one, but it's 5 o'clock. You need to know these things. And so that's why knowing how the Genie Plus system now works, it's more of an on-demand, kind of rolling around of how long you're going to wait. You don't have to plan everything in advance about what rides you're going to go on, but you need to know where you're going to be that day. And that's why I think for people, especially people, little kids, I don't think park hopping is going to be worth it for you. I don't think you should pay for it in advance. I think you should hold on to that money, use it to reserve rides. And if you're going to go out to dinner, go somewhere at one of the Disney hotels or go to Disney Springs. You don't need a reservation for that. And that's where you should be booking your dinner dining reservations. And that way you can enjoy your times in a park. And if you're dropping $175, $200 per day on ride reservations, it's an important factor when you're planning out your Disney dining. All right, we finally got to Disney dining reservation tips. You guys done great. So you got your crystal ball. You got an idea of where you think you're going to be. You know that you got to have some flexibility about Disney Genie Plus. You're going to go with my recommendation. Hopefully, don't worry so much about park hopping, especially if you have little kids. Don't bother with that. I'm going to give you my 7 tips for making Disney dining reservations. But before I give you my 7, I want to make sure you understand how Disney dining works. You book your vacation, you get a 60-day window. If you stay at a Disney hotel, you could book starting the 60-day mark for the entire length of your vacation. So let's say you're staying for 10 days. On your 60-day, you get the book for the entire 10 days of your stay. Ergo, you're out 70 days, if that's the math. You're out 70 days from when you're actually sitting down booking your reservation. You got to keep that in mind. The other tip I'm going to give you right out of the gate is don't be one of those old school people and call in. Just stop that. Get on the internet. If you're listening to me, you got a mobile phone. Use it. Don't make the call. I'll tell you why. Tip number 1, get up at 5:45 a.m. Yes, that's right. 5:45 a.m. Get yourself a cup of coffee or not, depending if you want to go back to sleep after your book. But the booking window opens at the 60-day mark at 6 a.m. Get up 5:45 a.m. and get yourself in place to start booking at 6 a.m. The next tip is don't give up. Keep trying. You don't see a reservation for the daytime you want. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Just keep refreshing. Go back to it. Things pop up. Things go away. People cancel. Don't give up. And do what I did. Use a laptop and also use the mobile app that gives you twice the ability to look for reservations. Okay? So don't give up and use your laptop and your mobile phone. Have them ready. Tip number 3, start booking at the end of your vacation, not at the beginning. Why is that? Because somebody already booked for the early part of your vacation because they already had a 60-day window a couple days before you. So look at the end of your vacation, start at the end of your vacation and book backwards. Tip number 4, if possible, this is not good for little kids. If your family little kids, don't listen to tip 4. Just skip ahead. But if possible, be prepared to split up your party. We're a party of 5. The kids are older. Everybody's 19 years and older. They can sit at a separate table. So be prepared to split up because it's easier to find a table for 3 and a table for 2 than it is to find a table for 5. So be prepared, if possible, if you need to split up your reservation system. Split up your dining party to get the Disney dining reservations you want. Tip number 5, book the harder to get restaurants first. Try and get the harder ones at the end of your trip. You'll have an easier time. You'll have more windows. There's a new restaurant, Space 220. Sounds like someplace I want to eat. It's at Epcot. Couldn't find it at the beginning of our trip, so I had to book it at the end. Look at the end for the more popular and especially the newer restaurants. Look at the end, not at the beginning. Tip number 6, and this is a lifesaver. You do not, and I repeat, you do not need to use Disney's reservation system to book dining reservations at Disney Springs. Use Open Table. And guess what? You don't have to worry about the 60-day booking window. You can be booking it now if you're 90 days out, if the restaurant has already opened it up. Use Open Table to book dining reservations at Disney Springs. The only downside is it's not going to be in your Disney Experience app, but whoop-de-doo, use a calendar. Like, you got a phone, use your iCalendar or Fantastical. That's what I use. And finally, tip number 7, don't be afraid to move around your park reservations. You might have to do that. You might think, oh, on this day I was supposed to be at the Hollywood Studios, and on the next day I'm supposed to be at Epcot, but I can't get that dining reservation at Space 220 on the day I want, but it's on a different day. Book the dining reservation first, and then go back in and flip around your park reservation systems. You'll feel a little panicky, but it's possible. I did it for the super popular week. I did exactly what I just said. I had to flip around my Epcot day, my Disney Spring, and my Hollywood Studios day in order to get Space 220. So be flexible. Don't be afraid. But first, book the dinner reservation and then go back in and flip around your park reservation. You'll be able to do it. I did it. If you're really nervous about it, you could check in advance on the park reservation system on the web to make sure the day that you're going to switch, they still have availability. So there you go. 7 great tips for booking your Disney dining reservations. All right, now for the fun part. Let's take a look and see what I did when I woke up. Yes, when I woke up at 5:45 a.m. on a work day to book our Disney dining reservations for our trip that's starting December 27th and going through January 3rd. That week is super crowded. It's the worst week to go when it comes to crowds. I already knew that somebody else before me had already started booking a couple days out. So I know I got my plan, got my 7 tips. Okay, but one thing you need to know, I already had used one of my tips for 3 dining reservations. I had already booked on Open Table at Disney Springs December 29th for Wine Bar George, December 31st at Raglan Road, January 2nd at Morimoto Asia. Wine Bar George is this amazing tapas sort of restaurant with like 1,000, I don't know how many wines by the glass they have, but like 1,000 right across from Gideon's Bake Shop. We love Wine Bar George. Raglan Road is like, it's like St. Patrick's Day every day, but with good food, not, corned beef and cabbage. Ugh. It's got good Irish food. Finally, Morimoto Asia, which I always like to do right around my birthday because it's one of my most favorite Asian restaurants around. So I already had those 3 in the bag, got up at 5:45, got in my favorite chair, had my laptop, had my phone, and a cup of water. I didn't go with coffee because my plan was to make my dining reservations at 6 a.m. and go back to bed so I wasn't a grumpy head the rest of the day at work. Okay? The other thing I had equipped with was some general ideas of some of the restaurants and or events we wanted to do. Unfortunately, a lot of those events, because of COVID, wasn't available, or they weren't available during Christmas week. Some of these restaurants that I wanted to book included Topolino's, Yachtsman Steakhouse, California Grill, the San Angel Inn, and 2 new restaurants, Space 220, which is at Epcot, and Steakhouse 71, which is at the old Wave location at the Contemporary Hotel. Keep in mind that I only had to make 4 dinner reservations. I had already the 3 restaurants previously mentioned at Disney Springs already in the bag. At 6 a.m., my bookie window opened up, and here's what happened. The very first restaurant I try to get is Space 220 because I knew that was going to be a hard get. I use my tips. I look at the end of my vacation. I'm trying to get it for, say, January 1st. It's not available. I'm only looking for a party of 2 because it's kind of expensive. The kids are going elsewhere. And on January 1st, we were supposed to be at Epcot. January 2nd, we're at Hollywood Studios. This is how I had it planned out using my crystal ball. That's why I had the Morimoto Asia booked on January 2nd. I look on January 1st. I don't see Space 220 available for a party of 2. So then I go check January 2nd. Bang, there it is. But I got a problem. I got to make 2 changes. First is an easy one. I grab the January 2nd party of 2 at Space 220. That's at Epcot. But right now, I got the wrong park reservation for that day, but I book it anyway. Then I go into Open Table on my app, on my phone, not using my laptop. I switch Morimoto Asia from January 2nd to January 1st. Got that taken care of. So January 1st and January 2nd now have changed. January 1st, we're at Morimoto Asia in Disney Springs. January 2nd, we're at Epcot for dinner. But now I got to switch the park reservation around. That's also an easy switch. Easy enough. Go in, switch the everybody else but me first because I'm an annual pass. I got to use a slightly different reservation system. I switch everybody around, moving Hollywood Studios and my Epcot at the end of the vacation. I flip it. So now Hollywood Studios is January 1st and Epcot's January 2nd. I don't have to worry about park hopping back to Epcot. Just took care of that. Everything's good. Made my reservation. Now, what I forgot to do was I forgot to make the kids' reservations on Epcot because we were a party 2 at Space 220. That's easy. The kids want to go to the Rose and Crown dinner in England, so I got a party of 3. So that night, the kids are eating at the Rose and Crown. They're not really kids anymore, again, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. They're at Rose and Crown. Lisa and I are going to be at Space 220. That's a piece of cake. That's all done. Next up, I go at the end, and I'm going, okay, now it's December 31st. We're going to be at the Magic Kingdom. As I said earlier, a couple of sections before, it's very hard now with quick service dining. And if everybody's using mobile ordering, it's jammed. It's hard to find seats. December 31st, I already know it's going to be jammed at New Year's Eve at the Magic Kingdom. So what I did that day was I made a lunch reservation at the Magic Kingdom for a party 5 at the Plaza Restaurant. It's right across from Casey's hot dog stand. It's got ice cream. It's got burgers. It's got vegan options. Thumbs up. Nailed that reservation. So now I got lunch on December 31st. I already know that day on December 31st, we're going to Raglan Road because we're going to leave the Magic Kingdom, head over to Disney Springs, maybe come back towards the Magic Kingdom area to watch the fireworks because we're staying at Bay Lake Tower. But we got Raglan Road for dinner. So December 31st, boom, already taken care of. Next up, I look at the end. We're going to be in Animal Kingdom on January 3rd, our last day. Again, don't want to deal with quick service. Don't want to deal with mobile ordering our last day there. Excuse me. I'm also worried that, again, might be a little crowded at the Animal Kingdom that day. So we book a Yak and Yeti, again, a good sit-down restaurant at the Animal Kingdom for lunch on January 3rd. Party of 5. Boom, that's done. That's easy. 12:30 lunch reservation. Have lunch at Yak and Yeti. Leave the Animal Kingdom. Go back to our hotel. Get ready. Next up, I really, 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 really want to try another new restaurant, which is Steakhouse 71, which is over at the Contemporary. I want to get it the first day we're in, which is going to be December 27th. I look for a party 5. Guess what? Can't find one. Keep searching, keep trying, got nothing. Panic a little bit. I book us at the Crystal Palace for dinner on December 27th for 8:15. All right. Now I got to take care of December 30th. Again, I know we're not park hopping. I'm looking at the hotels, trying to find one of our restaurants. I really want Topolino's for the family. However, I'm not seeing anything for a party of 5. So what I did was I booked the Yachtsman Steakhouse for a party of 5. Great steakhouse. It's over at the Yacht Club. But then I thought to myself, let me see if I can break up our party of 5 again and start looking for dining reservations for smaller amounts of people. So then all of a sudden I go look at Topolino's that day, and I see that there's availability for a party of 2 and a party of 3 separate tables within 15 minutes of each other. So I go in, cancel the Yachtsman reservation, go get Topolino for December 30th. Booked it at a party of 2. I booked it at a party of 3. We're nearly at the same time. We're only about 10 minutes apart, but big deal. Again, the kids are old enough. They can eat on their own. Don't care. Now, still not happy with my December 27th dining reservation at the Crystal Palace. We love the Crystal Palace. Don't get me wrong. We love the food. You know, when the characters are there, love the characters, but I really want to try Steakhouse 71. I've already had success twice breaking up our party, so let me do this again. December 27th, I go in, got a party of 2 at Steakhouse 71, and then I got a party of 3 within about 15 minutes of each other. Guess what? Booked those 2 reservations. So 3 of my dining reservations, just to recap a little bit, 3 of my dining reservations, we are split up from a party of 5 to a party of 2 and a party of 3. That allowed us to get the reservations. Yeah, the kids are eating on their own, but they spent the whole day, Lisa and I, they're going to be on their own. They don't need it. So I got all my dining reservations for dinner, got some lunches, and then I went, you know what? An old favorite of ours, Sci-Fi Diner, Hollywood Studios. Nobody really loves the quick service meals at the Hollywood Studios. I grab a 1 p.m. lunch on this January 1st. Again, remember, I switched around the park reservations. I grab a lunch reservation for a party of 5 at the Sci-Fi Diner. 7 a.m., everything's all set. I check my Disney Experience app. I check online to make sure everything's lining up perfectly. It does. I happily shut down everything, go back up to bed at 7 a.m., and slept until 8:30, and then woke up and I did the rest of my day. And that's a wrap on episode 26. It was a little bit of a long one. Hopefully you hung in there with me. You got plenty of great information and plenty of great tips. I talked about some of the bigger changes at Disney World and how that impacts your Disney dining planning. Next, I went over Genie Plus and the ride reservation system very quickly. For more details, listen to episode 25. Then I gave you my 6 to 7, depending on whether you have little kids or not, 6 to 7 Disney dining reservation tips. And finally, I ran through the process I took to book our dining reservations for our upcoming family trip. Thanks for listening, and thanks for going on this ride.